Since Prime Minister Dean Barrow took over the leadership of the country in 2008, his Independence Day address was one of the things that many looked forward to yearly, as it had become a tradition where he would speak of undertakings that would directly benefit hundreds, if not thousands, of residents. Those undertakings ranged from loan write-offs to salary increases to Christmas reprieves. Yesterday's address, however, did not have any of the trimmings that some have become accustomed to. Instead, Prime Minister Barrow spoke of the national discord taking place due to differences of opinions on the LGBT issue, as well as the rise in contention between the government and the main opposition party. He conceded to these issues at the start of his Independence Day address in Belmopan.
This year's September celebrations came at a time of great division in our country. Notwithstanding that it was not even 12 months since the people spoke in the last general elections, at which the results were decisive, the tug of war between the ruling and opposition parties has become more contentious. The labor movement has also been beset by a degree of factionalism. And even within our church community, fundamental philosophical differences have retarded the spirit of ecumenism and highlighted some seemingly irreconcilable points of view. The principal source of the conflict here is what has been described as the culture wars, starkly contrasting positions on how to treat with the recasting of the categories of sexual and gender identity and the claim that human rights include LGBT rights. Not surprisingly, my Lord Chief Justice's Section 53 ruling detonated a societal pitched battle in which traditional values and religious mores are in a fierce offensive against liberalism, secularism, and the arguments for evolved constitutional protections. Things then have gone way beyond the natural ferment, the expected clang and clamor of a young, developing democracy. And the economic backdrop to it all is at this time a complicating factor, since we are experiencing a recession caused by the vagaries of the commodities cycle, agricultural sector disease, the drying up of our petroleum resources, and the crash in global prices. It is, of course, a recession made worse by Hurricane Earl, but it is also a recession from which I must say at once, we will absolutely recover.
Prime Minister Barrow spoke on the ever-existing threat posed by Guatemala with its unfounded claim.
Also true that our sovereignty is variously tested from without. And in this sense, not the least of our trials is the constant element of peril which attends the unfounded Guatemalan claim. There is in fact a built-in precariousness to territorial integrity when our country is bordered by a much larger neighbor with revanchist aspirations. A neighbor whose size and power, even if not expressly deployed militarily against us, by their very fact are continuing intrinsic threats to our reality. In the circumstances, our diplomatic and physical survival and progress, the phenomenal job of work done by our foreign service officers, our BDF and our Coast Guard are matters of solace and pride. Our security forces in particular are small in number, but outsized in determination and ability. And government will continue to resource them in that same fashion, which has already seen us provide helicopters, 2 of which flew over this morning. Thank you very much. We will continue to provide helicopters and super modern cutters.
While Prime Minister has highlighted some of the social issues that are creating discord in the country, he also spoke of the economic strains currently being experienced, an ordeal he says Belize will surely overcome.
Even though there has been a slackening of the GDP numbers, there is still an abundance of good things happening. In particular, public works, that driver of jobs and growth, continues to remake our country. The Belize Infrastructure Limited is still proceeding with the construction of sports and community facilities in the district towns. And in the old capital, the Belize City Centre is beginning now to commune with the heavens, the frame of its roof already dominating the skyline. The Chatamal Street Bridge and the new Lakei Boulevard function as a critical transportation bypass, much appreciated by commuters. And the adjoining Resource Center building starting to take shape signals the implementation of the master plan for those 45 acres owned by government, designated now as a special development area. It is a mixed-use project that will house the National Bus Terminal and a GOB office complex, but as well private sector recreational, entertainment, and retail spaces.
Prime Minister Barrow went on to speak of the productive sector and strides made to get things moving in the right direction. He also addressed the issue of the Superbond.
On the productive sector side of things, the shrimp rebound from the virus that decimated our stocks is in full flow, and we will begin to export again at the start of 2017. Citrus prices are robust and actually ticking up, and the only challenge now is financing for increased production. The banana industry was badly hit by the hurricane, but those hardy farmers in the south are doing all they can to accelerate recovery. The expectation is that we will therefore regain total pre-hurricane capacity by next March. Grain for export was also terribly affected, but there is still enough for local feed and food, with even a little left over to sell abroad. On the other side of the ledger, some compensation is being experienced by the start of Santander sugar production, with deliveries to Spain having already occurred. The next harvest will be bigger and better, with greater export earnings. Belize's poultry will also commence going to CARICOM by November, and this too, with its value added in terms of use of local inputs for production of good quality chicken, is part of the equation that will help return us to full economic well-being. Tourism remains our brightest star, with success following success and overnight arrival records constantly being shattered. NCL is on track for its Harvest Key November start, and the exploratory probe into the feasibility of the new Belize City Port Loyola cruise terminal has yielded initial results that are encouraging. Our dollar continues strong and securely underpinned. But our correspondent banking woes are still a problem. 3 out of the 4 local commercial banks now enjoy full correspondent banking relationships with US or UK banks. But the 4th is still searching, and until it succeeds, its inability to route external flows for its customers does create a foreign exchange choke point. But our central bank is working to solve that problem. My confidence today, then, is for a full return by the start of the next fiscal year to GDP growth and financial system normalcy. But that confidence is marred by one thing: fear of that other hurricane called the Superbond. So I will say just this: